The billionaire's mother pretends to be a cleaner to find her son a good wife. The city glittered under the glow of skyscrapers, the hum of traffic weaving a rhythm that only the wealthy seemed to dance to. Atop one of those towers, in a penthouse that could make even the grandest palace feel small, lived Jonathan Kane, the youngest billionaire of his generation. The world knew him as charming, confident, and utterly unstoppable. But inside the opulent walls of his life, he was lonely. Margaret Kane, Jonathan's mother, was a woman of strength, elegance, and a keen understanding of human nature. She had raised her son to inherit wealth, power, and status, but she knew that money alone could never guarantee happiness. At 58, Margaret had decided it was time for her greatest project yet, to find her son a woman of character, kindness, and intelligence, a wife who would love him, not his fortune. Sitting in her study, Margaret stared at the latest social media reports of Jonathan's dating life. Women came and went, some for fame, others for ambition, but none had won her approval. "He's too kind to see their motives," she muttered to herself. She knew Jonathan needed someone pure-hearted, someone grounded, not dazzled by luxury. An idea struck her like lightning. She would step out of her golden tower and walk among ordinary people. She would disguise herself as someone unremarkable, a cleaner, and observe those who crossed Jonathan's path. Only then could she see who truly possessed the qualities she valued. The next morning, Margaret donned a simple uniform, plain trousers, a faded blouse, and an apron that smelled faintly of bleach. Her hair, always immaculately styled, was tucked under a modest cap. Gone were the diamonds, the silk dresses, and the perfume. In their place was a woman who looked as though she belonged in the world of the working class. She arrived at Jonathan's office building before sunrise, carrying a mop, a bucket, and a determination that burned brighter than any jewel she had ever owned. The building's security didn't recognize her, and the staff assumed she was a temp, sent to clean the offices before the daily chaos began. Margaret began her work silently, observing everything around her, the employees, the visitors, the people Jonathan interacted with. She noticed the ones who were kind to others, the ones who treated everyone with respect, not just those with status. She learned to read the little things, a gentle tone when a receptionist asked for help, a smile for the janitor, patience with a lost delivery boy. Days turned into weeks, and Margaret started to see patterns. Jonathan's social circle was filled with people who smiled for his benefit and fawned over his wealth. But there were a few women who visited the building for business reasons, simple, unpretentious, and full of grace. One woman, in particular, caught Margaret's eye, Elena Rivers, a young architect working on a charity project with the Kane Foundation. Elena's hands were steady, her voice soft yet confident, and her eyes showed a depth of empathy that immediately intrigued Margaret. Margaret knew she had to act carefully. She couldn't reveal herself or manipulate the situation overtly. Instead, she began small, leaving the elevator door open for Elena, offering a mop when a spill occurred, helping with a stack of files Elena struggled to carry. Each interaction was brief, unnoticed by most, but observed closely by Margaret, who noted Elena's kindness and grace in response. One afternoon, Jonathan appeared in the lobby unexpectedly. Margaret, busy polishing the marble floor, saw him glance around, seemingly looking for something or someone. Elena was talking with a colleague, unaware of the billionaire's gaze. Jonathan's expression was distracted, almost restless. Margaret watched carefully, noting how he moved among people, confident but slightly disconnected, as though searching for authenticity in a world of pretense. Margaret realized that her plan needed to accelerate. She needed to orchestrate a scenario where Elena and Jonathan could meet under circumstances that revealed true character. It wasn't enough for Elena to be kind to strangers. She needed to show warmth, patience, and honesty in situations that mattered. That evening, Margaret prepared a careful setup. She left a small accident in the lobby, an overturned plant and a puddle of water, knowing that Elena, who had volunteered for the charity cleanup that day, would notice it. Sure enough, Elena rushed over, helping to stabilize the plant and mop up the spill without hesitation. Jonathan arrived moments later, witnessing Elena's genuine concern for something so trivial, yet showing her inherent character. Margaret, hidden behind a column, smiled quietly. The seed was planted. As she walked home that night, still in her humble uniform, Margaret reflected on the lesson she was teaching herself as well. True character wasn't measured by wealth, beauty, or status. It was seen in small acts of kindness, in patience, and in the courage to do what was right even when no one was watching. She knew the coming days would test her patience, her cunning, and her resolve. But Margaret Kane was ready. For the first time, she felt a thrill that rivaled any business deal or social triumph, the thrill of discovering love that was genuine and untainted. And she would stop at nothing to see her son truly happy. The following week, Margaret intensified her efforts. She had observed Elena enough to believe in her character, but she needed to see consistency under pressure. She devised small challenges, subtle obstacles in the office that allowed her to see how Elena reacted. Each test was minor: a spilled coffee, a misplaced file, or a lost delivery package. Margaret noted Elena's responses carefully: the calm, empathetic handling of mistakes, her willingness to help others, and her unwavering kindness even when frustrated. Jonathan, unaware of his mother's covert operation, continued his busy life. He had meetings with CEOs, investors, and celebrities, yet Elena remained in his peripheral vision, an enigma of sincerity amidst a sea of opportunists. Margaret decided it was time for a larger test. She arranged a charity event, inviting several young women who had caught her attention over the weeks. She ensured that Elena would attend, under the pretense of presenting her architecture project. The event was grand, with chandeliers, fine food, and a guest list filled with the city's elite. Margaret, still disguised as a cleaner, moved quietly among the guests, observing interactions from the shadows. Jonathan arrived, effortlessly charming, engaging with guests, and commanding attention. Yet his eyes constantly drifted toward Elena, who stood at a modest table, nervously presenting her project. Margaret noticed how Jonathan's demeanor softened in her presence, how he listened intently and asked thoughtful questions, a sharp contrast to his usual performative charm. As the evening progressed, Margaret orchestrated a situation that would reveal true character: a staged accident involving a minor spill and a broken glass sculpture. The chaos created a tense atmosphere, with guests murmuring in panic. Elena didn't hesitate. She guided people to safety, reassured the worried, and even comforted a shaken child near the scene. Jonathan, impressed and genuinely concerned, helped her manage the situation. Margaret, hidden behind a curtain, smiled. This was the proof she needed: Elena's grace under pressure and Jonathan's authentic response. Both displayed qualities that money and status could never buy: empathy, patience, and courage. The next day, Margaret returned to the office, tired but satisfied. She reflected on the lesson she was learning herself: the value of observation, patience, and the quiet power of humility. It was not enough to seek what was obvious. True discernment required stepping into worlds unfamiliar, seeing with the eyes of experience, and trusting intuition. Margaret knew the next step. She would reveal herself to Jonathan, but only after ensuring Elena's character had been proven beyond doubt. The plan required patience, subtlety, and faith in her own judgment. Meanwhile, Jonathan found himself thinking about Elena constantly. Her kindness, intelligence, and calm in chaos had left an impression he couldn't shake. He began to question his previous relationships, recognizing a pattern of attraction to beauty without substance. Elena challenged him in a way no other had, not through words, but through actions. Margaret watched her son with a mixture of pride and amusement. Her disguise had worked flawlessly, giving her insight into not just the women Jonathan encountered, but the man he truly was. The lessons of wealth, status, and power mattered little in matters of the heart. What mattered was honesty, integrity, and compassion. Margaret prepared for the final act of her plan: to reveal herself to Jonathan and introduce Elena in a way that would test both their hearts and minds. She knew the road ahead was delicate, yet she felt confident that true love, nurtured carefully and observed wisely, could blossom even in the most unlikely circumstances. Margaret Kane smiled to herself, thinking of the life lessons she had witnessed. Patience pays off, actions reveal character, and love is found not in gold but in genuine hearts. And so the stage was set. The billionaire's mother, disguised as a humble cleaner, had succeeded in discovering a woman worthy of her son, and a son ready to see love beyond wealth. The world of luxury, appearances, and pretense would soon give way to a story of authenticity, kindness, and enduring love. We should know that true character is revealed in actions, not words. Patience and careful observation often uncover the hidden truth. Love based on authenticity lasts longer than love based on wealth or status. Humility can teach lessons even the wealthy can learn. Courage and kindness are more valuable than charm or power. The end.